Indian Springs was probably one of the first culturally diverse. I don't think they ever excluded anybody.
This was one of the few pools that was available to non-whites. A lot of the pools were exclusive in those days, and this was not.
So if you dug up all the cement,
Yeah, you'd have this archaeological dig up there.
If you go down this manhole 70 feet, so you'll see running water, and that's the spring. It still goes, and it flows into another pipe that goes into the wash.
this is Local Lore, where we explore local history and hidden facts in our communities. With Local Lore, we take you to everyday neighborhoods, pointing out extraordinary details you may otherwise overlook. I'm Olivia Smith, and we're on Honolulu Avenue in Montrose. This is what it looks like now, and this is what it looked like in the past. This slice of Old Town America is tucked away in northern Los Angeles, touching La Crescenta and Glendale, with a view of downtown LA. In this episode of Local Lore, we take you to a site just up the road where once stood a water park resort, schooling Olympians to gold medals and providing an oasis from the valley's heat. Let's go back in time to Indian Springs.
So if you take Jurassic Park, absent all the mean dinosaurs, that was Indian Springs.
I remember it was such a fun place for us to go. It was a community hotspot.
We went there regularly during the summer, probably till the time was about 11. Every other time we went, we could get an order of French fries at the snack bar.
There was a great snack bar, and I remember getting French fries there too.
And it was a huge pool with tons of kids screaming and splashing in the most beautiful location with just trees all around you, and you always felt safe.
Our expert guide to the past is John Newcomb. He is a filmmaker and also part of the Crescenta Valley Historical Society. John, where are we right now?
We are standing in front of the Vons in Montrose, California, and this 100 years ago, or even 60 years ago, we would be standing 75 feet midair. We are standing on landfill, basically. This used to be a canyon and an oak grove with a natural springs that was over there. In 1927, a guy named Charles Bowden purchased this land with the idea of creating a recreational park. He built a swimming pool over there, and he had a dance floor, he had stables, he had a merry-go-round, and it was a huge attraction for years, and was filled in the 60s. Have you seen that plaque?
I haven't seen the plaque
Oh, well,
yet.
that gives you the whole history.
So let's get a closer look at the plaque here, and it says Indian Springs Resort. For thousands of years, the small wooded canyon beneath this parking lot featured dozens of oak trees and a natural spring with water almost all year round. The local Tongva Indian tribe gathered here to drink, collect acorns for food, and escape the heat in the shade of the trees. So it was natural that entrepreneur Charles Bowden, with Blackfoot roots of his own, built a Native American themed resort, Indian Springs, in this canyon in 1928.
This is where Charles Bowden built the swimming pool, and originally he wanted to use the springs as part of the water, but it was not feasible. It was too dirty and it wasn't going to work out. Secondly, he did not build the pool in ground. He actually built it on the ground, and it was quite high up. And it was high enough where cars could come in through the parking lot, and there was an area for them to cruise around. So in the 50s, that was very popular for boys to come in, and the girls would line up along the railing, and they would cruise in here and do donuts and then drive out. Charles Bowden ran it for about 25 years. And then he handed it over to a guy named Monte Friend. But Monte Friend brought in a guy named Lyle Draves as a diving instructor initially. His wife was named Vicky Draves, and she was Filipino. And he led her as her coach, and she won 2 gold medals. She became the first Asian American to win Olympic medals. And then when Lyle and Vicky Draves came back from the Olympics, they actually moved into the house because Charles Bowden actually built a house and lived here. This was one of the few pools that was available to non-whites. A lot of the pools were exclusive in those days, and this was not.
Indian Springs was probably one of the first culturally diverse. I don't think they ever excluded anybody. I mean, there was a high dive, and that high dive was the center of attraction in the whole area because nobody had that uppity sense of entitlement, like this is our plunge. It was just a plunge that everyone could enjoy.
I guess I started at Indian Springs about 11. There was a swimming team, so I swam all the way through high school. We were there every day for the swimming team, and then when I was a lifeguard there as well. I'm the tall, skinny one. Indian Springs was foresty, is the best way I can say it, because there were just tons and tons of oak trees, and the canyon was long. You know, as the come down the hill now, as you came down that hill, the entrance was right there on that downslope. You'd have to make 180 degrees, and then the road went straight down. And then there was in this big canyon, and that's where we were.
I remember it being up to 108 degrees. So we needed to do something to cool off. We didn't have air conditioning in our homes. It was hot. So most of the summer we spent swimming at Indian Springs.
We're here with Robert Newcomb, John's brother and author of 3 local history books. Thanks for speaking with us, Robert.
Sure.
So tell us about Indian Springs. Your house is located above where it used to sit.
Correct. So they were both built the same year, 1928. So this was the first house on this hill. The area itself, which is just down this hill here, for probably eons, it was the only area around here that had almost year-round water. And so when Montrose started being developed, people didn't have private swimming pools, and so some local developer said, hey, this would make a great area for a swimming pool. So
It was a recreation center.
it was almost like a country club, yeah.
It's mind-blowing to think that this used to be a canyon and now it's a shopping center.
And as far as I know, they just filled everything in. I don't think they took anything out of there. So the house is still under there, and the pool is still under there.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow, so if you dug up all the cement.
Yeah, you'd have this archaeological dig there.
So from 1920s to now in the 2020s, how different does this look?
Charles Bowden had built an arch that you entered in, the cars, and the cars went down.
That's just incredible to me that this used to be a deep canyon and they took dirt just from up the road there when they were building the hospital. They dug out the mountain and they dumped it into this canyon to make it come up closer to street level.
Yes.
So when did that happen? That was in the 60s.
1966. The first thing they did was build the shopping center that you see there that's now a Marshall's. That actually was built in 1966. That was the first thing they did. Then they cut down all the oak trees here. There's not as much a concern about environmental impact. And everybody had pools, so nobody was swimming here anymore. So there wasn't the outcry that you would expect. Where the Vaughn sign is essentially floating right over where the swimming pool was located. And right up against the hill is where the changing house was and the diving board. They had a jukebox that was so loud you could hear it all across the valley, they said. A lot of dancing here. It was a great place for people to meet.
Where was the stand that you pointed out where people would go for?
The hamburger stand?
Yes.
The hamburger stand would be about where that car is driving right now, right about there. The Springs itself is over here, where you see the cut in the hill. And it's still there, it's still under, it's about 70 feet down.
We moved to another part of the parking lot and John is going to tell us about this manhole cover.
Well, there was a guy named Ray King who was part of the excavation crew that laid the foundation of this parking lot. And he said that he was here when we cut the side of the hill. And he said, if you go down this manhole 70 feet, that you'll see running water, and that's the spring. And it still goes. And it flows into another pipe that goes into the wash.
So it seems as though you've given us a really good look at what Indian Springs used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to go back in time and see how beautiful it was. Judging from everybody that swam here, it was a hot spot.
It was certainly a home for me, but it was like sort of in the 1950s there was this ideal America. That's what it was like, and it was a world unto itself. It was really nice.